Hello children, today in this video we will try to understand what are figures of speech. A figure of speech is a figurative language that may consist of a single word or phrase. Figurative language is opposite of literal language. But what is literal language? Literal language means whatever is being said is meant as per the words being used. So in literal language, we use the actual meaning or the dictionary meaning of the words. Figurative language is used to create interest and imagination. Figure of speech is used to convey an idea faster and more vividly. Figure of speech is used in poetry, speech, TV commercials, music, etc. Now let us try to understand this difference between what is figurative and what is literal through some examples. He ran fast. He ran like the wind. He ran fast, we are talking in literal terms. He ran like the wind. Here we are using like the wind, or we are using this comparison to show how fast this person ran. This ran like the wind is in figurative language. It is raining cats and dogs. When we use this phrase, it is raining cats and dogs, does it actually mean that there are cats and dogs raining? No. We use this phrase to show that it is raining very heavily. So this is again an example of figurative language, or we can say it is an example of figures of speech. Now there are different types of figures of speech. Let us try to understand some of these. The first one we are going to see today is simile. Now in simile, there are two things which are different. There are different kinds of things, but we compare these two things and there is at least one thing in common between these two things. Comparison is made between two objects of different kinds which are alike at least in one point. So there are two different kinds of things which have at least one thing in common, and we compare these two different kinds. In this figure of speech, the words like, as or so are always used. So children, we use words like, as or so to make comparison. To understand this figure of speech, let us look at some examples. He is as strong as a lion. Now in this sentence, we are using the words as to make comparison between a man and an animal. So in this sentence, there is comparison between person he and animal lion. Word as is used to make this comparison. And what is the one thing in common between them? What is the common quality? Strong. Helen was like a lovely rose. So in this sentence, we are comparing this person Helen and the flower rose, and we use the word like to make this comparison. And what is the one thing in common between them? They are both lovely. John is as clever as Jack. Look at this example. John is as clever as Jack. Now both John and Jack are persons. Now in sentences where there is comparison between two objects of the same kind, it is a simple comparison and it is not a simile. Metaphor. In metaphor, again there is comparison between two different kinds of things who have one thing in common. So then what is the difference between a simile and a metaphor? Implicit comparison is made between two unlike objects without the use of the words like, so, as. Now what is the meaning of implicit? Implicit means there is suggested. It is suggested though not directly. Metaphor is an implied simile. He was the lion in the fight. Now in this sentence we are comparing this man to this lion, right? But here when we are doing this comparison, we are not using words like, so, as. Just like simile, here in metaphor again there is comparison, but we are not using words like, so, and as. We must learn to race in the journey of life. Your life is indirectly compared to a journey. The camel is the ship of the desert. So here in this sentence, camel is indirectly compared to a ship. Alliteration. Now what is alliteration? The sound of alphabet or alphabets at the beginning of two or more words is repeated for poetic effect. So in alliteration, the first alphabet or the first sound is repeated in two or more words. Let us look at examples to understand alliteration. Marigold Maidens is a magnificent movie of memorable moments. So in this sentence, children, we see that the sound of M is repeated to produce a pleasant effect. Only the first sound is repeated. The snake slipped under a spray. The sound of S is repeated to produce a pleasant effect. The fall of the fig tree figure prominently. The sound of F is repeated to produce a pleasant effect. So in all these three examples, the first beginning sound is repeated. Repetition. A word or phrase or line which is significant is repeated for effect. So just like in alliteration, in repetition also we see that something is being repeated. But the difference is that in alliteration, the beginning sound or alphabets are repeated. In repetition, an entire word or a phrase or line is repeated. Rain, rain, go away. In this example, the word rain is repeated. Happy by night, happy by day. The word happy is repeated. So the entire word is repeated and not only the beginning sound. Personification. Non-living objects, abstract qualities or ideas are spoken of as possessing human qualities. So human qualities are given to objects or ideas. What kind of human qualities like emotions, desires, sensations, speech, etc. are given to inanimate objects? The waves beside them danced. So the waves are given the human action of dancing. The pine trees frowned at her. The pine trees are given the human ability to frown. Laughter holding both her sides. Inanimate laughter is said to be doing the action of holding her sides. Antithesis. In antithesis, contrasting or opposite words or ideas are brought together in the same line or lines for poetic effect. Speech is silver, but silence is golden. Now, children, in this sentence, the words speech and silence have opposite meanings. but they are used in the same line to give a poetic effect. That includes both big and small. So now in this sentence, words big and small, which are opposite in meaning, are used in the same line. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. Now children, again in the sentence we see that the words give and take have opposite meanings. They are used in the same line for poetic effect. So what is antithesis? In antithesis we find that contrasting or opposite words or ideas are used in the same line to give poetic effect or to make it sound better. Onomatopoeia. Words expressing sound are used to dramatize the effect of the idea presented. Now what do we mean by this? Words which imitates natural sounds of a thing are used. So words which show sound. Let us look at some examples to understand this. The leaves swished and whistled in the shrieking wind, while some of the boughs creaked and cracked. So children, here in this sentence, the words swished, whistled, shrieking, creaked, cracked all create a sound effect. These are natural sounds of these leaves moving, which have been used here to give or to dramatize the effect. The buzzing bee flew away. So in this sentence, the word buzzing has been used. What sound does bee make? It makes the sound of buzzing. So here the word buzzing imitates the natural sound of bee. Because it imitates the natural sound, it is onomatopoeia. So children, with this we finish explanation for figures of speech. Thank you for listening. Goodbye and take care.